And here we go. Good morning, Las Vegas. We're here with retired Colonel Mark Robertson. This is Las Vegas Tea Party, and we're doing an interview with him on his candidacy for Nevada's U.S. Congress District 3. Good morning, Mark. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thanks.
Well, give us a minute to get to know who you are. Introduce yourself and just tell us who Mark Robertson is.
All right. So I'm 62 years old. I'm a Christian, a husband, a father, a grandfather, a business owner, former business owner, a former teacher, and a former soldier. I spent 30 years in the military. I enlisted as a private and retired as a colonel.
So you've pretty much covered the gamut of experiences.
I've had a lot
Teacher,
I've had a lot
soldier.
of experience, yeah.
Right. Awesome. So how did you come to be in Nevada?
Our last duty station was in Camp Zama, Japan, and we moved here from Tokyo. I was on active duty then, and when we got off of active duty, we chose Las Vegas, so we're here by choice.
Oh, very good. And where are you originally from?
My parents were in the military. Both my parents were in the Navy and moved around a lot. I was born in Orange, California, but lived in Chicago and St. Louis and Tampa, Florida. I joined the Army from Florida.
Originally from California as well.
Oh, great.
I understand why we ran to Nevada. So what made you decide to run for office in Nevada?
Well, it's a good question. It's not something that's been on my bucket list. This is not something I had ever planned to do. But I got tired of us being the Republican Party. And I decided I couldn't just wait for somebody else to do something. I needed to do something. I think we need to break up this democratic socialist republic monopoly that's in Washington, D.C.
That's how I got involved with the Tea Party. And so what office are you running for exactly? I know I screwed it up on the
No, I'm running for the U.S. House of Representatives for Congress, CD3.
Okay. And do you know what the boundaries of CD3 are?
It's all of Henderson, Boulder City, all the way down to Laughlin, and then on the east side of the valley, it's all the way up to South Summerlin, just north of the Summerlin Parkway. And on the that's the west side of the valley. And on the east side of the valley, it's up to about Tropicana.
And why did you choose to run for Congress in Nevada? Why not any other office?
Yeah, so it's where my experience lies. As I said, I spent 30 years in the military. I've deployed to 10 different foreign countries, including combat zones in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Kuwait. I also served in the Pentagon. I served in the Office of the Secretary of Defense for policy. So I've worked on national policy.
So you're really familiar with pretty much every aspect of politics in America.
Well, I am familiar with the national politics and the national policy. I also taught at the National Defense University in Washington, and I taught finance at UNLV. I have an MBA in finance, and so I understand how the economy works, and I know how to balance a budget.
Very good. I think that's probably one of the biggest issues we have with most of the people who are running for office today, and even the average American. They just don't understand economics. They don't understand that, to give somebody a $15 an hour job, you have to take something from someplace else. There's only so much water that fits in the bucket.
Right.
And you take a drop out, you put a drop in, and something has to give.
Yeah.
So what are the duties of a congressman in Nevada?
Most important is to represent the people of their district. And my wife and I have raised our family in CD3. We live here. I owned a business in CD3. I was active in the community. I was a leader in my church. I served as the mayor appointed me as a part of an advisory commission of the city of Henderson.
Mayor Goodman or Mayor of Henderson?
Mayor of Henderson, yeah, Andy Hafen. And so I think the number one responsibility of a member of Congress is to represent their district, and I will. We've lived here, worked here, played here, shopped here, worshipped here. I'll be responsible to the people of CD3 because they're my friends and my neighbors.
Are you going to well, one of the ways that I personally think that that's accomplished is by making yourself readily accessible to your constituents. Do you have a plan to do that?
I do. In fact, if somebody wants to talk to me personally on the phone one-on-one, we have a Calendly link that they can go to and schedule a phone call. They'll be able to see my schedule and pick a time that works for both of us, and I'll give them a call and they can ask me anything they want.
That's fantastic. So let's go over some of the issues that we're facing today. First, what's your stance on the United States Constitution and the Nevada State Constitution?
Yeah.
Do you have any bones to pick there? Or?
I'm a strict constitutionalist. I think we ought to interpret the Constitution the way it was written and the way it was meant originally. And originally they wrote provisions to amend the Constitution, and we've done that several times. So it wasn't a perfect document from the beginning, but there are procedures to amend that. And so if somebody takes exception to what we have now in the Constitution, they ought to go through the process to amend it. Don't just ignore the language that's there. I took an oath. 30 years ago, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution, and I honor that oath still today.
Very good. So with the Constitution in mind, what is your take on the mask mandate that we're facing now?
Yeah, I'm against government mandates. I think the government ought to give true, accurate, and complete information and then allow the citizens to make their own decisions.
And isn't that the way it's written in the Constitution? There's nothing in the Constitution that even allows mandates.
There is nothing in the U.S. Constitution that says the federal government should have any role in health or education or any of the things they've got their fingers in now.
And with that also comes election integrity. Clearly we don't have election integrity, and we haven't had for a very long time. This last election was just an illustration of how bad it has gotten.
Right.
I know there are a lot of congressmen, really good congressmen in Congress now, and have been in the past, facing that, and it doesn't seem to be getting much better. Do you think you can contribute to restoring the Constitution as in regards to that issue?
In regards to election security, I think it's one of the top 5 priorities that I'll have when I go back to Congress. You know, I was deployed to Iraq when the Iraqis got the right to vote. You might remember them holding up their ink-stained finger, proud that they were able to vote. But to vote twice in Iraq, you had to cut off your finger. and ballot harvesting was a really painful idea. So if a war-torn country like Iraq can have secure elections, so should we. I mean, the simple idea of a fingerprint on your ballot that would say that this was you really did vote. And nobody can say, well, nobody's got a fingerprint, or there's people who don't have a fingerprint. That's not true. So simple efforts like that could make could make our elections secure.
And that goes right into the issue of illegal aliens and the left pushing for illegal alien voting, which just is so absurd in my mind. I mean, if citizens of other countries can vote in our country, then what's the point of elections?
Yeah.
But how do you think you can address that?
Well, I think it's amazing. It was just 9 months ago we heard the left, the Socialist Democrats, screaming, nobody is above the law. Nobody is above the law, as they already allow 1.5 million people to break our law and enter our country illegally. We've got to get control of our borders. We've got to finish the wall, and we've then got to monitor using electronics and then give our brave Border Patrol officers the resources they need to stop the illegal flow of people across our southern border.
And that also affects the economy as well, the illegal alien influx into this country.
Absolutely.
And so many people have no idea how that affects. And I've heard claims made that they are not getting benefits, but I know for a fact that they do get public benefits. As soon as they get into this country, they get like $3,200 immediately right off the top without even question.
Oh, and not to mention the free bus ride to wherever they want to go in the United States. You know, we're almost $30 trillion in debt. I mean, a trillion is such a large number, it's even hard to comprehend. We're $30 trillion in debt almost, so we're not even paying our own bills. Why would we bring people in and then pay their bills?
And that's what a lot of people don't understand too, I don't think, is that when we say we're in debt, they don't understand that we're in debt to ourselves. This isn't money that we're owing other countries, although there are some debts that we do owe to other countries. But this debt that we're talking about, this $30 trillion, that's money our government is paying to people in this country that we're indebted to.
That is true. People talk about China owning our debt, and China does own 9% of that debt, which is not a small figure. But the biggest part of that is owed to Social Security and Medicare, those
Right.
trust funds that the money's been spent in those programs, and the federal government owes that money to Social Security and Medicare recipients.
As an educator and as a man with experience in politics and on the world stage, I'm sure you understand the education issues that face Nevada.
Yeah.
As a congressman, is there anything you think you can do to address that and improve the education here in Nevada?
Yeah, as I said earlier, there is nothing in the U.S. Constitution that says the federal government should have any role in education. That is definitely a local decision. In fact, education decisions should be made as close to the child as possible. I would support abolishing the Department of Education. There is not a need for a federal Department of Education. Bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. should not be making education decisions for our children. Those should be made by parents. We ought to give parents the choice to pick which education option is best for their child, whether that's public or private or co-op or magnet schools or homeschooling, and that the education dollars that we have ought to follow that child.
That's a very good plan. And what you've heard me asking you a lot of questions about what issues I think are important, but what issues are the most important to you?
We've already brought up securing the borders, securing our elections, and education. Those are three of my top five. But I'd also add the individual rights that are guaranteed in the Bill of Rights. It's the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. They're under attack now. Those are freedom of religion and freedom of speech, and the Second Amendment that allows us to own guns. I would protect all of those individual freedoms that are found in the Constitution.
And I kind of touched on this a minute ago. There are a lot of good people already in the fight trying to save our country from well, let's call it what it is, from the evil that's coming from the left. How do you think you can succeed where others aren't?
Yeah, so my wife and I went to Washington, D.C. in April, and we met with members of Congress. We met with leadership of the Republican Party and members in Congress, and I was impressed with the quality and character of the people that we met. There, just as you said, there are good people who really do want to do the right thing, but they're out of power right now. Nancy Pelosi in the House does not allow any input from Republicans, so these good people can't do anything. So I can be part of the solution to take the gavel out of the hands of Nancy Pelosi. Right now, our district is so-called represented by Susie Lee, and she votes with Nancy Pelosi 99% of the time. She votes with AOC 96% of the time. She is not representing us. We need to replace
Representative
her.
is Dina Titus. So.
Yours is Dina Titus? Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah.
So yeah, I understand that. So how do you think you can affect any kind of impression in Washington, D.C., where it's so bleak right now for the right?
Yeah, I think it is bleak, but our nation's gone through bleak times before. I mean, I remember 9/11, September 11th was a very dark day. But remember September 12th? September 12th, our country came together. You saw people, all kinds of people, driving through town with American flags displayed. We came together as a country and we were united. We can do that again. We can fight off this headlong dive into socialism and take back our country. And the first step to doing that is taking back the House and the Senate.
That's very good. I think that's a good plan. And I really think people are together. I think it's the media portraying their agenda, which doesn't include unity in America on the right. So people don't realize how united we actually are.
I think you're right.
So what do you want people to know about you?
Know that I'm not a politician. This is not a third career that I'm looking for. I served 30 years in the military. I spent 20 years owning a business. I was not looking for a third career. I am doing this simply because I want to break up this monopoly. I want to take back our country. I want my children and grandchildren to grow up with the same type of opportunities I had.
God bless you for doing it, because I don't think I would have the stamina to do it. So, if you were conducting this interview, what would you want to know?
I'd want to know if a candidate for CD3 really is going to Washington, D.C. to truly represent the people, not to build a career or for some personal aggrandizement, and so I'd want to know that, and I'm telling you, this is not some career move. In fact, I'm for term limits. I don't think we should have lifetime members of Congress. I think we ought to have term limits, and these lawmakers ought to have to go back home and live under the laws they've created.
Okay, very good. So once again, tell us your name.
I'm Mark Robertson. I'm running for Nevada's 3rd Congressional District, and you can learn more about me at www.robertsonforcongress.com.
And if people wanted to contact you to ask you about who you are and what you're doing, or to vote, how to vote for you, how can they get in contact with you?
Great. If they'll go to that website, robertsonforcongress.com, there's a contact button. They can email me. There's also a link to schedule a phone call with me. So they can email me, text me, or talk to me personally.
Very good. Thank you very much, sir. It was great talking to you, and thank you for your service. And this is Las Vegas Tea Party once again, interviewing Mark Robertson for Nevada US CD3. And we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you very much.